Today, I want to talk about how the narcissist brain processes relationships. Before we jump in, subscribe, give thumbs up, likes, comments, questions, what's working for you, what's not. I love to interact with you guys in the comments. So put your comments and questions below. And if this is valuable, remember to share it with someone in your life who it might work well for. Okay. Have you ever felt like someone didn't get you emotionally? Someone like me doesn't really get you emotionally. Their way their brain processes relationships might explain why you get that feeling. So, there are functional differences in how the narcissist brain works in a lot of ways, but one in particular has to do with relating to people and empathy that I wanted to talk about today with a little detail. So, research has shown a lot about how the brain works with a narcissist, how it's different than the normal person, and putting probes and I don't know the technical details, but basically they measure your brain activity and certain stimulus and see what lights up, what doesn't light up, what's connecting, what's not connecting, and then compare that to sort of the normal brain. And one of the interesting things to me is that there's a somatosensory resonance response. And that is when somebody else is experiencing a feeling or an emotion, part of the brain in most people lights up, meaning you can experience it and you are aware the other person's having an emotional response, and you can empathize with that, put yourself in their shoes. And believe it or not, in the narcissist brain, a lot of times this area lights up even stronger than a normal person's brain. I know that's really interesting because we suffer a lot from lack of empathy. But what happens is the connection between that part of your brain and the parts of your brain that then bring that into fruition, meaning connect to then actually considering how that would feel for you, and then how to relate to somebody with that, sort of taking it from the realization of there's something going on to the action that would follow that in a normal situation. That connection is much weaker in the narcissist brain. So it's kind of like you're driving in a car and the warning light keeps coming on and you know that it means something, but you really have no idea what it means and what you would do to fix it. So the way that ends up then translating is you have this thing light up in your brain and it's like, oh, there's something. And since it doesn't connect to oh, that's the other person, here's how I respond, here's what I feel because I'm feeling for them, empathy, it actually adds to the self-referential frame of the narcissist, meaning that the next question that comes to mind is, how does that relate to me? So rather than the normal person who might think, how would I feel if I was in my friend or this person's shoes, and then responding from there, in my brain it goes to, how does this relate to me? And it's not because it's like I am just like some evil person that only wants to know how things work for me. It just actually happens to be one of the baseline contexts that the narcissist brain defaults to. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's only in practice ends up being a bad thing when you're unaware that that's what's happening. Because for me, and I imagine for most of you as adults, you have that self-referential frame occur. How does this relate to me? But you've learned from all the negative feedback over the years that that's really not what you're supposed to think or how you're supposed to operate. So then you try to fake it. Like, oh, what do they want me to say here? What did I say the last time the person had something like this that actually worked versus what did I say the last time the person had something like this that then they were upset about? Or last time I didn't say anything and it seemed like the person was upset. So I better say something, but I have no idea what to say. Your brain just kind of goes through, our mind goes through this crazy hamster wheel of like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Now I'm understanding that it's not bad or something wrong that I go to that self-referential framework. And then I can start building on that. So, whatever it is, it's like, okay, they're sharing something emotional. Okay, how does that relate to me? And then I can think, oh, yeah, okay, this is one of those times where they're probably looking for empathy. I'm not really feeling empathy, but if I can imagine how, they're having an argument with their boss is really, unreasonable for them. How does that relate to me? Well, their boss is unreasonable for them and they might get fired and we were planning on going to some concert together, and what if they don't have the money? I could go through that round. But then what I'm learning is to catch myself in there, like, okay, they're not telling me this because of how it's going to affect me in my life. They're telling me this because they're wanting to express themselves and have me hear them. So I can stop and just listen. I can say, I can see that that's an emotional thing for you, or that's important for you. And I don't really feel it the same way, but I can totally get that it's an important thing for you. And sometimes just that is enough for people to feel, like they've been heard, because I'm literally telling them I hear you, without me having to pretend and think, oh, what do I have to say here? How do I act like I'm someone with empathy? The other thing about this, with this awareness, is you can start actually practicing building empathy if you want. And what I'm learning is that as I've been slowly building empathy, I kind of like it. It allows me to connect with other people a little bit more. And that's beneficial because I don't get negative feedback, but also beneficial because I just like it, Like I realize that there's something about having empathy that feels good and is satisfying. It makes my own personal life actually work better. And so one of the main ways I've been working on this empathy piece in my own life, and it's it's retroactive at this point, and as I get better at it, and I would say there's probably some examples, if I really searched, where I'm starting to get a little bit ahead of the game, but most of it for me now is still after the fact. So I find myself really considering interactions I've had with people afterwards a lot more now. Well, I used to do it before, but what I used to do before was just pile it onto the big pile of evidence that there's something wrong with me and I'm a bad person. Now I don't put it on that pile anymore because I understand that my brain works differently. Now I think, oh, I wonder if that was one of those times, or I bet that was one of those times where I could have expressed something different because they were expressing feelings, or they were saying something to me that they were excited about, or whatever the case may be. And at this point, what I do is I either clock that in my memory very consciously so that it happens more in the moment in the future. And sometimes I'll even go back to the person and say, hey, when you said that thing to me the other day, that's really cool. Or, when you said that thing to me the other day about, the thing that's frustrating for you, it's like, I heard you. And I can imagine that's frustrating. If I put myself in that same situation, or when I've been in situations like that, it's frustrating for me too. After the fact isn't ideal, but I will tell you, it's like a muscle. It's like there are muscles that I've never used, so they're super weak. It's hard for my brain to even figure out how to activate them. But the more I exercise them in conscientious ways, the stronger they become. And that's what can happen with your empathy muscle too. Obviously not a real muscle, but you know what I'm saying. The more you practice it, wherever you're at, but from the perspective of that narcissists are people too, like the tagline of the channel here, that you're actually a person, there's not something necessarily wrong or bad about you, you can actually start building that muscle. So understanding how our brains process relationships gives us tools to create better connections, even if it takes a little extra effort. All right, I hope that was helpful. Remember, subscribe, give some likes and thumbs up, comment questions, what's working, what's not working. I love to interact with you guys in the comment section, so make sure you comment and share this with somebody who you might feel it's useful. All right, see you next time.